come here very often, you know that TIFF is a very welcoming and friendly place. So if you kindly maybe spend a minute to greet the people around you and get to know a little bit about them if you haven't met them before. And we'll spend a minute before we start doing that. Good afternoon, everybody. We're about to start. I guess everyone's had time to talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit better. We would like to, it's very nice to have everybody again this week, and we'd like to extend a particularly warm welcome to those of you who are new here today. We're always really happy to have you here. TIFF is a very friendly place, so we're always very happy to have people, new members, new friends to get to know. I'd just like to remind people who are new here that there is a welcome card at the back of the room. So please, if you have time, could you kindly fill in the welcome card so we know more about you and we know how to reach you a little bit better. It's been a week since we all met here last time, for a lot of us. And I guess a lot has happened throughout the week, and we've been busy in our lives, in our work. And I think it's very easy to get distracted. So let's take a moment, I think, now that we are here, to maybe spend a little bit of time to focus on God and to maybe spend a minute of silence and pray in your own words that God today will guide us and lead us through today. So stick it, bow our heads and spend a minute doing that. Holy Lord, the God that hears our prayers, you have said that you will be present whenever 2 or 3 gather in your name. We welcome your presence and grace in our lives. We ask that you manifest your glory today and shine your light on us. Through your light, may we illuminate the lives of those around us. As we feel your presence in worship today, may our knowledge of your divine mysteries continue to grow and change our lives forever. Amen. Before we start, Todd has just mentioned that there's a white car parked downstairs by the entrance. I don't know if it's somebody's car here, but if it is, could you kindly move the car so that the pastor can leave the building? Otherwise, he will be stuck here. Thank you.
reading for today is found in the book of Psalms, Psalm 53. Isaiah 53, sorry. Who has believed what he has heard from us? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? For he grew up before him like the young plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And as one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten by God, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned everyone to his own way. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth, like a lamb that is led to the slaughter. And like sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And as for his generation, who considered that he was cut off out of the land of the living, stricken for the transgression of my people, and they made his grave with the wicked and with the rich man in his death, although he had done no violence, and there was no deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the will of the Lord to crush him. He has put him to grief. When his soul makes an offering for guilt, he shall see his offspring. He shall prolong his days. The will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. Out of the anguish of his soul he shall see and be satisfied. By his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous, and he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore I will divide him a portion with the many, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong. Because he poured out his soul to death, and was numbered with the transgressors, yet he bore the sin of many, and makes intercession for the transgressors. As the ushers come forward to collect the offering, let's bow in prayer. Father, we just thank you so much for this privilege to be in your presence, together as one body of Christ, O Lord. We thank you for the privilege of knowing you and to receive from you an abundance of your grace and your mercy, O Lord. Lord, as we contemplate what you have done for us on the cross, and what you have done for our mankind and for our salvation, O Lord, our hearts just kneel and bow before you at your presence, O Lord. There is no one like you, and there is no one that can replace you. Each one of us has been touched by you in some way, and we want to say thank you, Lord. And we want to say we love you, Father. Receive all the glory and praise, blessing and honor that is due to your name, Lord. As we give to you now, Father, a small given to us, Father, we give to you with joy and gladness, O Lord. We ask, O Lord, that you would use this monetary gifts, Father, for the advance of your kingdom here on this earth and here in Taiwan, Father. And Father, not only the money, Father, but we want to be part of it. Use our lives, O Lord, to do your work. For Jesus' sake, for your name's sake, for your glory. In his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Go take out your Bibles and turn to Mark chapter 7. This is the time. If the kids want to go on to Sunday school, they can do that. 3rd grade and younger can head on downstairs. Let me welcome everybody. And tonight, if this is your first time with us, we are so thankful that you're here and hopeful this will be the first of many times back with the TIF family. 如果你第一次来，我非常欢迎你来，我们教会。还有，如果你不太会讲英文，我们准备翻译讲，就是要用下载做，所以请你scan 那个 QR code， 你可以找到我们的讲义讲 Okay? So whatever, if you understood that, great. If not, just scan this thing. All right. And our wonderfully capable translators have prepared for you a translation. And if you speak Mongolian or Indonesian, we also have it translated into those 2 languages as well. So if you can't quite get close enough, you may have to zoom in on your phone. There's also a scan behind you on the TV at the back of the room. So maybe that one's a little bit closer and easier. If you even need to get up and move around the room, please feel free. We definitely want you to obtain the translation for the service. We've been walking through the Gospel of Mark, looking at who Jesus is. And today is Palm Sunday, by the way, Jesus' triumphal entry. And I won't be preaching specifically about that, but I do want to say a word about next Sunday, which is Easter Sunday. One of the most important days in the Christian calendar as we think about what our faith means to us. Easter is such an incredibly important day, and one of the ways that it becomes important to us is not only it's important to us, it's important to the world. It's important to the people that we know and love. And so we are doing something at TIF that we hope you'll take part in, and that's invite people to come. Because we want people to know the incredible message of the gospel, which is good news. That Jesus has come, and that he is who he said he is, and that he has done what the Bible tells us he has done is good news. And so we want to share it. We're going to share a great meal together. So next Sunday afternoon at 2:30 p.m., we're going to have a big meal here at the church all together. Is it lunch? Is it dinner? I don't know. It's 2:30 p.m. You decide. But we're going to eat all together, okay? Eat a big breakfast and come a little late in the afternoon for do you call that the lunch? I don't know. Derek, what are we going to call 2:30 in the afternoon? It's delicious lunch. That's what we're going to call it, okay? So come in the afternoon at 2:30. We're going to have a great time. And then we will have our service at 4:30. And it's going to be an uncommon message next Sunday afternoon. I'm actually going to preach from the Old Testament and tell you a story from the Old Testament that will demonstrate what Easter is all about. And next Sunday service will be translated live, okay? So I know that's not our usual habit, but because we will hope that you will invite your friends, family members, co-workers, classmates to come and join you for that great meal that we're going to have, and then to hear the gospel message. We want to make sure it's as clear as possible. So one of our great translators will join me here on the platform, and it will be a little bit of back and forth, which I know we're not quite used to here at TIF, but we definitely want people to understand the gospel. So that'll be a little bit different next Sunday. It will be a shorter sermon, I promise. I won't preach as long as I usually do. We'll end as close to on time as possible, so the service will still be from 4:30 until about 6. And then we hope you'll stay around afterwards and enjoy the fellowship. It'll just be a great day together. And yes, I'm going to buy some Hawaiian Lays tomorrow to pass out so we can all look Hawaiian. And we're going to have some Easter eggs. And it's just going to be the weirdest day possible. But all for the purpose of talking about Jesus. All right, Mark chapter 7, verse 24. Let's begin. Mark chapter 7, verse 24. 2 stories, again, that Mark kind of puts together the lives of 2 people that Jesus encounters for the purpose of revealing to us, again, who is Jesus. Who is he? Why did he come? How are we to know him better? So that's what we're going to see today, I think. I hope you'll see it with me. I want to tell the two stories, hopefully reveal to you a couple of pieces of information that you don't know yet, maybe you haven't thought about in this way, and then draw it together at the end with 3 points. That's what's going to happen today. Mark chapter 7, beginning in verse 24. Let's read together. And from there he arose and went away to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And he entered a house and did not want anyone to know, yet he could not be hidden. But immediately a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit heard of him, and came and fell down. Now the woman was a Gentile, a Syro-Phoenician by birth. And she begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. And he said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she answered him, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." And he said to her, "For this statement you may go your way. The demon has left your daughter." And she went home and found the child lying in bed and the demon gone. The second story, let's continue on, verse 31. Then he returned from the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee in the region of the Decapolis. And they brought to him a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment, and they begged him to lay his hand on him. And taking him aside from the crowd privately, he put his fingers into his ears, and after spitting, touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed and said to him, "Ephphatha," that is, be opened. And his ears were opened, his tongue was released, and he spoke plainly. And Jesus charged them to tell no one. But the more he charged them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, "He has done all things well. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak." Now, if you'll indulge me, I actually want to read the first story one more time, but I want to read it in Matthew's gospel, because Matthew adds a couple of things that Mark doesn't record. So Matthew chapter 15, verse 21, you don't have to turn there, but just let me read it to you. Matthew 15, 21, and Jesus went away from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, "Send her away, for she is crying out after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. So, what can we learn from these two accounts, these two histories, these two people that Jesus encounters? First, let's look at the Syro-Phoenician woman. What's going on? Jesus is trying to get away again. He's trying to escape the crowds. He's trying to find some meditation, some peace, some release from the constant pressure of the people just crowding around him. We've already seen that over and over again. Everywhere Jesus goes, it's just a night market, instantly. I mean, that's what happens. Wherever he goes, it's an instant throng of people always around him, always pushing in, always trying to get a piece of him. He can't do it in Israel. He can't do it with the Jews. So he moves a little farther out He goes out to a place where the Jews actually wouldn't go, to the Gentile territory. So that's the description that Mark and Matthew give us. It's the place where the Jews didn't live in Israel, the Syro-Phoenicians. But even there, it seems his name is known. Even there, he can't get away. The people know who he is. And this woman, obviously having heard of who he is and his power and what he's able to do, comes to find him. And in Matthew's account, we see she's yelling. She's demanding. She's screaming. She's saying, Jesus, help me, help me. What do the disciples do? Are they Jesus, bouncers? Are they the guys trying to say, oh, Jesus needs a little quiet time? No, I think they're actually trying to protect themselves too, perhaps. But Jesus is always available. Jesus is always ready. His heart is always going out to the person like this. But she didn't have any right to approach Jesus. She didn't have any standing with Jesus. She was a pagan. She was an outsider. She didn't belong to the Jewish religion. And I'm sorry to say, she was a woman. In that day, women had no social standing. She was disqualified from coming to Jesus because he was, at the least, a rabbi, a teacher, a good teacher, a moral person, and by all accounts, a true prophet of God, the miracle worker. But no one could stop her. No one could keep her from coming to Jesus. Why? Well, we all understand why, once we read the story. Because she was what? A mom. She was a mom. Some of you have been there. Some of you have had that sick child. Some of you have had that desperate moment where you would do anything. You would move heaven and earth, so to speak, to get your child the help they need. And this woman's child, there was no help. There was no help in that day. Don't you know, in the pagan territory she lived in, she'd probably been to the local temple. She'd probably sought out all of the local religious help that she could find. And no one could help her. She'd probably been to the doctor. She'd probably been to the shaman. She'd probably been to the fortune teller. And no one could help her. And finally, Jesus arrives in her town, in her village, in her life. And no one, not even Jesus' disciples, could keep her away, could keep her from coming to Jesus. So, there was no barrier too high. There was no chasm too deep. There was no risk. This woman was willing to risk it all to come to Jesus, to save her precious child. So this story actually is quite normal. We all understand what's going on here. But the craziness starts in not the story, but the response, the back and forth between Jesus and the woman. What's going on here? Because we're so used to Jesus being kind. We're so used to Jesus saying nice things. We're so used to Jesus saying somewhat appropriate things, sometimes shocking things, but this, he calls this woman a dog. Is that right? Did you read the story? It seems like he calls the woman a dog. And, well, here in Asia, there's this thing called the Chinese zodiac, right? Some of you are going, what, zodiac? Do we believe in that? No, we don't. But it is true. I mean, it's different than the Western zodiac where you read your horoscope. By the way, if you read your horoscope, stop. It's wrong, okay? It will never be right. Don't do that. Talk to me afterwards, okay? The Chinese zodiac has to do with the year that you were born in, right? All of you Asian people, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. How many of you know the year, the animal year that you were born in? Yes, good for you. When we moved here, 6 years ago almost, we really didn't know about this. And people started to ask us, oh, what animal are you? What animal am I? I don't know. I like to think of myself as a tiger or lion, And they're like, no, what real animal? I'm like, I don't know what real, I'm a person. I don't know what real animal I am. No, what animal are you? What year were you born in? Oh, 1968. What animal am I? 1968. Monkey, that's right. If you're an Asian, you know this, right? I mean, it's like drilled into you, okay? And so my wife says, oh, well, I want to know what animal I am. And I'll look at her, she's about to turn red. And she says, well, I was born in 1971, thinking she would be this wonderful, like the dragon, or, something great. She's the pig. And here, that's, in Asia, that's normal, everybody's something. But can I tell you something? In America, you don't call people pigs. That's not good. And I'm sure in some other countries in the world, you don't call people pigs. And so the first time my wife heard that, she was like, no, I don't want to be a pig. And she's born on December 31st. So she's like, maybe we can fudge a little bit, just roll over to 72, I don't know, so. Listen, in Jesus' day, you didn't call people dogs. That term, that metaphor had terrible connotations. Because dogs in Jesus' day generally were street dogs. You would never call somebody a dog. It was a terrible way to describe somebody. And Jesus says, hey, I came for the children. Oh, what a beautiful picture. I came for the children, the little children sitting at the table eating the food. I didn't come for you dogs. Oh, does the hair on the back of your neck kind of stand up at that? Kind of get a little, whoa, wait a second. Who are you calling a dog? This woman, though, she gets it. Gets what, you say? Gets what? This is offensive. He's being prejudiced. He's being racist. He's being mean. No, he's not. He's not at all, because actually the word he uses for dog is a different word than street dog. He uses the word for puppy. It's a completely different word. And he is calling into mind a metaphor to see if the woman understands why he came. And she does. She doesn't get offended. She doesn't take offense. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago I said that Jesus is often offensive? The trick is to not take offense. And this woman does not take offense at the gospel. She gets the gospel. How does she get it? How does she get it? She understands it. She says, well, I understand, Jesus. She says, I know that you came for the children. I know that you came to bring your message to the people you came for first, but there's plenty of food on the table, and even after the children eat, there's plenty left. There's plenty in your message, Jesus. There's plenty of power. There's plenty of everything for us puppies. There'll be plenty. What's going on here? She says, I get it. I know I'm not supposed to be at this table. I don't have the Bible. I don't have the Ten Commandments. I'm unworthy. I accept it. But she doesn't take offense. She says, there's more than enough on this table. What's going on? Let me explain it to you. For those of us from Western cultures, we have a little more trouble getting this, maybe, in our way of thinking, because we assert our rights based on our personal standing. Walk with me here a little bit, okay? I'm going to help you understand this, I think. I hope I can. When we want something, we generally want it because we think we deserve it. You should give me this So in this story, the idea would be the woman might say, you should give me this because I deserve it. But she's not saying that. She's approaching Jesus from a completely different side of the coin. She's saying, I'm coming to you, Jesus, not because I deserve it, but based on your goodness. Based on who you are, not based on who I am. And dear friends, that is the gospel. That is who Jesus is, isn't it? She says, please give me what I don't deserve on the basis of your goodness, on the basis of who you are. And what does Jesus do? He says, he turns to her and he says, in the original language, he says, wonderful answer, beautiful answer. For this answer, you're right. Your daughter is healed. And she is. She didn't take offense. We read this story and it's kind of offensive. We think, how could Jesus address a person like this? But listen, don't miss the point. The point is Mark is actually showing us, how do we approach Jesus? How should we approach Jesus? And oftentimes we come to Jesus, how? On our own righteousness. We come and say, Jesus, you owe me because I'm a good person. You owe me because I've done this thing for you, or I've done these things for you. I suffered for you, Jesus, so you better bless me. I've worked hard for you, Jesus, so you should give me what I deserve. No, that's not the gospel. The gospel is this picture right here. This woman comes and says, I don't deserve anything. I don't deserve anything. I don't even belong at the table. But I'm actually not asking because of me. I'm asking because of you, Jesus, because of who you are. And who you are in your character and your goodness. Would you give me? Would you give me, Jesus, over the overflow of your grace? And what does Jesus do? His response is overwhelming. You know, there's two ways that you can miss Jesus. There's two ways that you can miss Jesus, and I just gave you the first one. You can demand from him what you think you deserve, and you don't. Or you can actually go the opposite way. That's the first way, is you can be too proud. The second way is you can think too low of yourself. You can actually go the opposite way and think there's no way that God could love you. Maybe that's you tonight. Maybe you're sitting here and you're thinking, that's not me, Todd. I don't think I deserve it. I think I don't deserve it. Hey, dear friend, none of us deserve it. That is the gospel. That we get what we don't deserve on the basis of God's love. And so tonight, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, I've lived a terrible life. I've done things that I can't even forgive myself. That may be true, but I'm telling you that God can forgive you. God can, and he can help you to forgive yourself. You don't need to forgive yourself first. You need to receive God's forgiveness. And he will help you know how to forgive yourself. God loves you. Now, let's look at the second example. Let's move on. The second person that Mark wants us to see. They returned from the region of Tyre, went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee. Let's go back to verse 31. And they brought to him, pause. And they brought to him a man. It's so easy to miss keywords when we read the Bible. Who are they? Who are they? They brought to him a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment, and they begged him to lay his hand on him. Don't miss that. This deaf, mute man had some really good friends. They brought him to Jesus. And in the first story, the woman, she came herself on behalf of her daughter, but in this story, the man couldn't even come, and they brought him. Oh, I wish I could meet they. I want to know what kind of friends they were. I'm going to talk about that again at the end. That's one of my points, so stay with me. Yes. Jesus does something that, again, seems to defy our expectations of him. This story is so, yes, again, so weird. It's almost like we don't know what to do with it. In the first story, he becomes this seemingly really offensive person, and in this story, he does these weird kind of faith healer things. What's going on? Look at what happens. He takes this guy away from the crowd. He touches his ears. He spits and touches his tongue. That's just weird. He looks up to heaven and he sighs deeply, and the man is healed. You know, in some of the healings, in the first healing, Jesus doesn't even go to the girl. He decides for the girl to be healed, and she is. This is the power of Jesus. You realize Jesus doesn't have to snap a finger. He doesn't have to speak. He doesn't have to do anything. He simply thinks it as the Son of God, and it is. The same power by which God created the universe is the power by which Jesus acts. That's the power of Jesus. But here, what's going on? Hey, come over here. Okay. That's weird. That's weird. What's going on? Okay. Let's pay attention to the text. If you are deaf and mute, how do you communicate? Sign language. So what's Jesus doing? He's using sign language to speak with a man who cannot communicate. Jesus is entering into this man's world and taking him out of being a spectacle for everyone to make a spectacle. He touches his ears. Hey, I'm going to do something about this problem. He touches his mouth. I'm going to do something about this problem. He sighs. We'll come back to that in just a second. And he looks up to heaven. I'm going to pray. The man, don't you think he probably had some idea now what's going on? What's going on with this man who's touching my ears and touching my mouth and looking up to heaven? I'm going to heal you is what Jesus is saying. And I'm going to do it by the power of God. The sigh, what is that? This sigh in the original text is actually an expression of deep hurt and emotion. It's that is used to express pain. Why? Don't you think Jesus would be happy? I'm bringing joy and healing back into this man's life. But Jesus does not express that. He expresses pain. Why? Because there is a cost. There is a cost to heal this man. What's the cost? Mark chooses his words always very carefully. In the Gospel of Mark, there's always these references back to the Old Testament. We've already seen that in previous messages. And he references an Old Testament prophecy to describe what's going on from Isaiah 35. In Isaiah 35, verses 4 and 5, it says this, "Say to the cowardly, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. Vengeance is coming. God's retribution is coming. He will save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped." Okay. What's going on? vengeance is coming. God's retribution is coming. That's how the eyes of the blind are open. That's how the mouth of the mute is open. That's how the ears are unstopped with vengeance and retribution. What Mark wants us to see is that the cost is not vengeance on us, not retribution taken from us, but Jesus is sighing because he knows in order to heal this man, he's going to pay the retribution. The retribution is coming on the cross. The retribution is coming from Jesus. On the cross, Jesus identifies with us. Jesus takes our place. He substitutes himself for us. And on the cross, he takes the retribution that we deserve so that we could be healed, not only physically in some cases, but ultimately spiritually in every case. Why can you come to Jesus? Why could the woman ask Jesus for what she didn't deserve? Why could this man have his ears opened and his mouth unstopped? It's because of Jesus. Because on the cross, the true Son of God, for a moment, lost his sonship so that you could be given eternal sonship. This is the message of the gospel, so you could be adopted forever. For our tongues to be loosed, for our ears to be opened, Jesus on the cross was silenced. Isaiah 53:7 says this, he was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb led to the slaughter, like a sheep silent before her shearers, he did not open his mouth. God loves you, dear friends. God loves you, dear friends. Let me leave you with three final thoughts. First is this. Your acceptance before God. Your acceptance before God. How can you, all of us want to feel this welcoming, right? When you show up here at TIF, when you show up at a new place, walk into a new class, go to visit a business, even go to a store, don't you want to be welcomed? You want to be greeted. I love to visit James' office over here, the man who welcomed you to our service today. Every time I pull up at his office, there is a person. I don't know if you arranged that. You know I'm coming. Is that, maybe I'm over it. Maybe, okay, well, anyway, it's still nice. You show up at his office and there's somebody standing out front waiting to greet you. Would you like a glass of water? We're so glad you're here. That's so nice. I thought it was for everybody. It's just for me. Wow, that's even nicer. Okay, thank you. It's because I texted him and tell him I'm on the way. She didn't just stand out there for like an hour waiting on me to show up. That's good to know. We want to be welcomed in. When someone shows up at your home, you go to the door and greet them because you want them to be brought in. Jesus brings you in. He welcomes you. How does he do it? Not on the basis of your good works, on the basis of his. So you can be truly welcomed in. Isn't that better? Because if it was on the basis of your good works, then it would always be this evaluation. Well, some of us are better than others. Some of us have done more good works than others. Some of us have given a little more than others. Some of us have suffered a little more than others. So God would have to always be saying, well, some of you need to sit a little closer to the front, and some of you need to sit a little closer to the back. But God doesn't do that. He welcomes all to the front, all to his arms, all are brought in. Dear friends, if you are in Christ, you are welcomed and accepted on the basis of his righteousness, not yours. That's what it means ultimately to be a Christian. And no matter how wicked you've been, no matter how many bad things you've done, and no matter how many good things you've done, Jesus is for you. That's the first point. Second is this. In these stories, in these histories, in these accounts of Jesus' life today, but as we've been reading, I want us to recognize this, and honestly, our church is a great example of this, mostly. Jesus knows how to reach across cultural, religious, all kinds of barriers. All kinds of barriers. Whether you're from the Western culture or the Eastern culture, whether you're from a more traditional culture or a more open culture, it doesn't matter. We should be the best at looking across at someone that maybe looks different from us or acts different from us and extending our hand, extending our life towards them and welcoming each other in. Okay? That should be who we are because we see it done with Jesus. Jesus welcomed this woman to the table. He welcomed a deaf man and a mute man. Jesus welcomed all kinds of people. He welcomed heinous sinners. And he welcomed self-righteous people. All kinds of people were welcome in Jesus' presence. And here's how that works. Ultimately, it's not that we look at Jesus and say, oh, what a good example. We should try to be more like Jesus. That will actually crush you because you can't be more like Jesus. What you must do is be transformed from the inside out. You look at Jesus and see, actually, you don't belong. You didn't belong, and Jesus brought you in. And then you look at someone else who maybe you think doesn't belong, and you bring them in. That's what the gospel does for us. You look around this room and you think, wow, I'm a member. I belong here. What are they doing here? And your thought changes because you realize, oh, actually, none of us belong here. Not one of us belong here. We've been brought in by Jesus. So now our job is to look around the room and bring everybody else in. We bring everybody else in. Okay? Finally, the third thing I would say is this. If you are a Christian, let me revisit this last thing. You must become a they. Are you a they? Because out there are lots of people who are still deaf and mute. Do you know what I mean by that? I don't mean they literally cannot hear or cannot speak. I mean this, that spiritually they cannot hear the gospel and they don't know how to talk to God. They cannot hear the message of the gospel and they do not know how to talk to God. So how can they? They need a they. They need a they. And guess where they is? We're here. So when this is over, guess where they goes? They go out there. And they go bring them in here. Or we take him out there. Both. Will you be a they? T-I-F? Let's be a they. This is the gospel. This is the gospel. Next week, will you be a they and bring some people to eat with us? Share the fellowship and share the love of Christ? And let's bring them in. Let's bring them in. Let's make outsiders insiders. Because we were all outsiders. It's fun to be an insider. It's fun. It's even more fun to bring outsiders in. All right. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, every time we read your word, we see some new side of you. You're like a diamond that we hold up to the light, actually against the blackness of our own hearts and souls, and you shine ever brighter. ever more brilliantly. And each week you reveal more of yourself to us. And we're so attracted to you because you're so precious, so valuable. We must have you. So we want to take you into our lives and our hearts so that we can actually begin to reflect you and become more like you. Lord Jesus, we love you and we need you. I ask that you would take the message today and anything true in it, push it deep into our hearts so that we can become more like you. And I ask this in your precious name. Amen. Okay, thank you. We're going to do just a couple of announcements, and then we'll sing our closing song and be dismissed. So first of all, this Thursday night is the Ladies' Easter Fellowship, and I would love to invite you to sign up for that. That's going to, we have the location now at our church office coffee shop, which is the information. If you sign up on the Planning Center website, then you will receive an email with the location. It's not far from here, right at the corner of Buchwin and Taiwan. Okay, so it's really close. There is parking there now. They have a couple of parking lots. So that's Thursday night. And do they need to bring anything? No? Right. Don't bring anything. Okay. Next Sunday, we are having a baptism service. And we have 5 people being baptized. And so if you're thinking, I love Jesus, I have become a Christian, I want to express my faith to him, then today, I really need you to come talk to me today, okay, so we can get that in process. Okay, otherwise we'll just wait until a little bit longer. So I would love for you to be baptized now, but if you're not ready, then you're not ready. So if you want to, then we're ready. Next Sunday, please help us by signing up. You don't have to, and I know saying that probably tells you, oh, I don't have to sign up, but it is helpful if you do sign up, just so we make sure we have enough food for you, because we will definitely want to make sure that we've got plenty of food for all the guests who come, as well as all of you who come. Notwithstanding any weather event, the meal will be held on the grounds, okay, just right out here. And we have some seating available also downstairs in the small area down here, but a lot of us will just have to kind of stand around, and it's just going to be a kind of a free form event. We're not planning any major table set up or anything like that, so it's just going to be fun and an opportunity to talk and mix and have luau-ish kind of food. So 2:30 next week. Is there anything? Michael's not here today, so I just want to make sure I've said everything I need to say. All right, that's it. You guys, would you stand?
Friend. Thank you, Jesus. You are dismissed. And if you are practicing choir, can you come forward? 5 minutes later. Thank you.